Yes, people, big up to every single one of you. Channel's back, 12 man's back. Big up to all of you that was here this morning to check out the show with myself and Grizz. Some really interesting news around the futures of some of those Liverpool players on 1 year left. So please make sure you do go check it out, and make sure that you checked out the Harry Kane debate of why he makes England worse, according to LB and the panel that disagreed with it. We've got another show now. It's Gooner to Gooner with one of my favourite Gooners. It's James B from AFTV. James, what are you telling me, bro?
Oh, that's very kind of you, man. It's a pleasure to be back. All good. International break is slowly trickled past, but we're nearly there. A couple of days to go. We can enjoy some proper football again. Although the most exciting thing about international football has been this Thomas Tuchel stuff, which I think we said we are going to go into a little bit. But all good. How are you?
Listen, I'm really good, bro. And international break has actually been fairly busy. I just decided to just go along with the content and just try and get as much out as I could to entertain everyone, because let's be real, it can be quite an interlull and a bit dull for everybody. So the England stuff actually is a lot to talk about. And it seems that with Arsenal, there's a lot to talk about as well, which some of it is a bit more frustrating, of course, and negative in terms of injuries. But we'll get to it. Big up to everybody that's in the chat. Make sure you do me a favor, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Our next target is 30K. We're going to get there pretty quickly. If you guys keep hitting that subscribe button as you are, because we're flying. So please make sure that you do continue to do that, people. And make sure, if you're not already, that you are going over and subscribing to the Gooniverse. Is literally in the title. All you got to do is click on Gooniverse. It takes you to James's channel, and you can help him get to his next target, which is a massive 50K, people. Big up to you, bro. And also a big up to Ryan as well, because I didn't realize, but Ryan has won one of the football prizes. He's won the Anelka shirt. So big up to you, bro. I didn't realize that. That's incredible. So well played to you, man. And we had one on Judge's show the other day, Daniel Parker. There's one. It's good. We're trying to get free between us. We're trying to get free winners on the show. So please let us know if you do win, because that is a great prize to win, man. Listen, James, let's talk, man, because this Thomas Tuchel thing has done the rounds. And there's been a lot of people on Twitter and socials that are sort of really losing their minds about it because he's not English. And the media are doing their best to get involved as well by putting headlines like, "It's a dark day for England." I couldn't believe it when I saw that. I actually thought, what is happening here? Like, real talk. And I actually think it's a good appointment. And I'll tell you why I think it's a good appointment, right? I'll give you the scenario as to why I think it's good. Let me just say, James, you are now a football manager, right? And I give you this career journey. Borussia Dortmund, big club, successful there, see yourself as a good manager, and you go and get jobs at the following clubs. Paris Saint-Germain, one of the biggest jobs in France, one of the biggest jobs in football, I would say, as well. Huge club. You then go to Chelsea and win a Champions League. Yep. And then you go to Bayern Munich and play some good football over there, albeit you lost the title to Bayer Leverkusen. I get that. Not only is that an incredible CV that you would say you had, you would also then look at the potential to go into international management and then look back at your club management and go, I've kind of done a bit of everything there. I've gone to France, England, and Germany. I've been fairly successful in every single job that I've been. I've won some trophies, and my CV says that I can take hold of a team and I can get them across the line. Maybe I need to go and prove myself at international management now. I would say that's a really good appointment. However, I'm seeing today that people are absolutely livid about it and saying that because he's not English, it's not good. Now, I'm all for saying that there might be a disappointment and it might be that there's not been an opportunity for English coaches to have really proved themselves. I mean, me and Judges was just talking about it previously, that you have to go back maybe 4 or 5 decades to actually look at some of the successful England managers, other than Sir Bobby Robson and Harry Redknapp's of this world. So I think if they're not out there, you have to look elsewhere, right? So for me, I think it's a good appointment. It's definitely an upgrade on the Southgates, the Carsleys, the Allardyces, the Roy Hodgsons, Steve McLarens that we've had in the past decade or two. What do you make of this appointment, man? And what do you make of the outrage?
Some more criticism for Thomas Tuchel, who's yet to manage a game, who's got the CV he's got, than Gareth Southgate ever got. For, let's call it as it is, falling at every legitimate hurdle. Now, I'm really happy to do the whole what did Southgate get right? And there's plenty we can go into. Really, there is, from changing the nation's kind of feeling towards the England team, bringing the media closer to the players. He brought through young players as well, the likes of Bukayo Saka as well. He gave his opportunity perhaps earlier than we even expected. He did some really good things. And then, of course, the record will state a quarter-final, a semi-final, and 2 finals. And that looks really good. Shy of actually winning, that's as good as you can do pure results-wise. But we all saw with our own eyes. We saw the teams we beat, with all due respect. We saw the teams we beat to get to those latter stages of these tournaments. He had favourable runs, apart from really Germany at home, but even that was a home game at Wembley in the Euros. And then every time it felt like there was a hurdle and he needed to do something that surprised us all and go a bit beyond that, he couldn't do it. Now, I know we're not here to talk about Gareth Southgate, but my point is, I never really felt that was discussed in the media, that was like properly dissected and appreciated in the media, that while he's done a lot of good, he's clearly not an elite manager, Gareth Southgate. And now we have an elite manager at our door, and we're complaining already. Now, there are two conversations here. If you want to say, because I was listening to Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports, and I think this is a worthy discussion. Should international football be what he described as our best versus your best? And that includes coaching staff, manager, everything. It's England versus Spain. That's a conversation that can be had, but that's not how it works. Therefore,
No.
I'm the best manager we can possibly employ in the England job. And Thomas Tuchel, I mean, Guardiola was kind of loosely discussed, but he's not leaving before the end of the season. I actually think credit to the FA. They've gone and done that. They've gone
Yep.
and got the best manager they can get. Now, with Thomas Tuchel, we can go into more detail. I think he's a touch overrated, but that's like, if people think he's a 10 out of 10, I think he's a 9 out of 10 is what I'm saying. I think he's a fantastic manager, and I think he's a great appointment. And I think his record in cup competition football speaks for itself. His ability to very quickly get a tune out of a team and results out of a team is something as well that's going to bode really well for the players. And I think he's really suited to this group of players as well. Terrific appointment. I don't understand the complaining personally.
Facts. Everything you've just said, I totally agree with. And if you're to look at one of the proven managers and elite managers out there at the moment available, you would say that Zidane is up there, but unattainable. You would say that Allegri has got a CV that says you win, but you might look at that style of football now and think maybe we're moving on from those type of managers. Thomas Tuchel's the one that you then look at and go, wow, he's available. We can get him now. And England have gone and done that. And I'm so surprised that Manchester United have not looked at that and gone and got him, because that was the one that they should have just gone and got. And, look, Thomas Tuchel did a great job at Chelsea, in my opinion. He pretty much got them to every single final that he took them to. Yeah, he didn't win them all, but he did win the big one, which is the one with the big ears that all of us want, the Champions League. And I look at that and I just think absolute elite mentality, has been successful everywhere that he's been, has got experience in getting teams across the line, and now needs to do that with England. I thought the interview today was brilliant in terms of him saying, I want to put another star on the chest. Right. I thought he was really good. He's always had quite a charismatic way with the media anyway, in my opinion. And I thought it was a really good appointment. I will say, and I said this on Lee's channel, people have said, they've probably said to yourself as well, because you'd be very, very good at this, is why don't you go into the journalist side of things, James or Dan? Why don't you go into that? And the reason I've never wanted to is because I speak my mind, and I'd probably be chucked out of many of those press conferences by saying stuff that I was not supposed to do, right? Which is why I stick to YouTube. But there's some guy who's clearly been training for quite a long time, has finally got his moment to sit in the chair and ask him anything he wants. And his question is, are you going to sing our national anthem? I actually could not believe that was a question being asked. This is a serious question. He's got his chance. He's got his moment. One question only, and he's asked that. I mean, what is going on here, Jan? This is what I don't get about it. Like, I totally appreciate some people want the English manager to be English, and I get that, and I can understand why that is. And Jamie Carragher made a good point in previously. I think you said it was him saying, let's go England versus Spain and see what you've got. But if we did that, we'd always have a really mediocre manager, because other than Eddie Howe and Graham Potter, you're then scraping around going, Gary O'Neill, okay, now we're in the Championship. What? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm serious. Like, other than Brian Clough and Paisley and Howard Wilkinson and Sir Bobby Robson, we're struggling after that. Like, in the last couple of decades, Harry Redknapp is probably the one that you'd look at and go, well, he's maybe the best man manager and tactically the best. It's a real struggle. So you have to look elsewhere. And people might, not like this, but I actually feel like the last time I was excited, other than recent England, was under Sven, and he wasn't English. So, I don't get the outrage, if I'm honest with you. And I actually think he can do really well. Also, James, he knows Harry Kane really well. He has worked with other players before. He's worked with the English game. He likes England. I just don't really see that this is a bad fit, James, at all.
I agree. On the question about the national anthem, like, Look, Dan, maybe I'm missing something, and I'm always happy to say these things, say what I'm about to say, and then let people come in the comments and tell me why I'm wrong, or maybe why I'm missing the point, or maybe why my perspective is skewed. But I've just never cared. I've never noticed whether an England manager or player is singing the national anthem or not. I just haven't. Now, is that because I'm half Italian? So maybe I don't feel fully English or fully Italian. Like maybe there's that. I'm Arsenal above England and Italy quite considerably. I always say it's Arsenal, England, Italy, or Italy, England. It kind of depends how I'm feeling that summer. Um,
Well, that
but
2021, I remember that. That was probably like the weirdest scenario for you, right? Because you've got
yeah,
England, Italy, and then bloody Saka misses the penalty. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what do I
I
do? That
hated
must be
it.
some emotions for you, man.
It ruined the final for me. If Foden had missed the penalty or something, I'd have rejoiced and enjoyed the win. But yeah, there you go. Genuinely, and I didn't really cheer England on that much this summer. But when Bukayo Saka buried his penalty in the shootout, I think it was in the quarters against Switzerland, I was over the moon. Rice putting in. So he had some okay performances, not great, but when he did put in a big performance, you felt proud. So it's always been Arsenal first for me. So I don't notice the national anthem stuff, and I find it incredible that some people care so much. But again, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's a source of national pride that I'm missing that's actually very important, but I've just never felt it and I don't get it. Like, I don't get why people are so hung up on it. That headline, it's a dark day for English football. I just think, you can make a good point about whether the international manager should be from that country, and you can make that point without having to be so bloody hyperbolic about it. It's a dark day. What do you mean it's a dark day? Like, Southgate failed to beat everyone who was seen as marginally better than him or just at least on a level. He failed to beat them every single time. I'm going to include the Nations League, mini tournament in that as well, because he lost to the Netherlands in that, right? Every time there was something kind of, all right, Southgate, show us a little bit more. He always failed. And now we've got a manager who has overcome those things. Pep Guardiola in a Champions League final, Pep Guardiola in a Wembley semi-final. Like, he's done that, Tuchel. He's gone to Bayern Munich and won the league, albeit got a touch fortunate, I will say. He got PSG to the final to the Champions League. And that's the closest that this incredibly expensive and talented group of players over the last 10, 15 years haven't been able to do, but Tuchel's on, you've got them there. We've got a manager who's been able to overcome that. And now we're going to complain because he might not sing the national anthem or because he's German. What are we talking about here? I'm really confused by the outrage. And like I said, it's not that people can't bring a sensible discussion about these topics, but you can't. But all this hyperbole is crazy to me. We've employed an elite manager, and I'm delighted about it. That's all I care about.
Same, man. And look, big up to Max in the chat as well, man. Big up to
Hey,
you, my bro.
Max.
Absolute legend, man.
He is a legend.
Listen, man, I've got to say, if I said to you now, and I can bring England and Arsenal into this, right? If I said to you, in the next two tournaments, James, England are going to win the World Cup, your question to me would not be, what nationality was the manager, Dan?
Yeah. But hold
You're
on.
going to go, wow.
Before I celebrate, what nationality was the manager? You're just not going to do that.
Exactly. And likewise, Arsenal. If I said to you, in 10 years, Arsenal are going to win 5 Premier Leagues, are you going to go to me, who was the manager? Was it Mikel Arteta? I don't care, mate. We won 5 leagues in the next 10 years. I don't care if it's 5 different managers. We've done that 5 times in the next 10 years. And this is what I've always thought about managers. I spoke to Grizz about this morning, and I sort of said, I never look at who the manager is. I just look at how successful the team is, and then allow the manager to make a name for themselves, so you know who they are. Don't ask, who is the manager? You even know who the manager is, but you don't actually care. You just know that you've won trophies. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's interesting, Dan. If you don't mind me cutting you there, just
No,
because
go
on I think you're spot on, especially at international level. On the Arsenal level, I find that interesting. It's a bit like the conversation: if we won the league but we part the bus all season, would you care? No, because we won the league, you'd be delighted. But at the same time, would it feel great to win it with Mikel Arteta as our manager, who brought through Saka, who got us to this point and challenged as a young manager? And wouldn't it be great if he overcame Pep and did it? It'd be amazing. Would it feel better it being that way than if we sort of hired, I don't know, Jurgen Klopp next season because we couldn't get over the line and he did? It'd be incredible either way. But sometimes there is a connection to certain managers or people in the club that have got you feeling a certain way and you want the best for them. But I kind of get your wider point. Like we're talking about results now. We're talking about England getting it done now. And if people want to talk about, well, English managers not being given a chance, well, my question would be, how many English managers are out there really impressing you? I think Graham Potter impressed at Brighton. I think Eddie Howe has actually been impressive at Newcastle. I think the injury crisis last season slightly skewed that. So yeah, they've done well, but like better than Thomas Tuchel? No, they're not in that conversation yet. Not for me. They might be one day. So yeah, I get your point. I'm really surprised. No, am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised by the media reaction. Some people in the media, I'm not that surprised. But it's just like we're so boring and predictable, isn't it?
Yeah, man. And look, like for me, I don't care who the manager is as long as I believe they're good enough. If I believe they're good enough, I'm happy. And if you look back in history and go, Arsenal have won this, I don't think and go, who was the manager? Because I know the managers back then were good enough to win us titles. George Graham was good enough. Arsene Wenger was good enough. If I look back in time and Thomas Tuchel's won with England, I know he was good enough and I know that it was well deserved. And I think we could be doing that. I think England have got the squad. I think we go across the line one more and I think we've got the manager now to do that. So look,
Yeah.
I hope he does it. I hope he's successful. He's definitely got these next two tournaments and then we see where we are after that, man. But
Yep,
look,
agreed.
this is an Arsenal show.
Yeah.
But that was very topical, so we had to talk about it. And something else we have got to talk about, which kind of segues from the internationals, is our injuries from it, mate. I suppose we can go through one by one what we're being told has happened. Saka, we knew come off in the Greece game. What do you make of that separate as a separate incident? What do you make of that? Do you think this is bad news long term? He's going to be okay? Do you expect him to line up at the weekend? Like, what are we talking about here? Because this is Saka. And if there's any other player, I'm like, oh my God, it's weeks. But with him, he just keeps bouncing back, bro. And Mikel Arteta will play him with one leg if he could. So where are we at with this, bro?
I don't know. I'm hoping he's pulled a sickie. Oh, I'm not feeling it today.
Yeah.
No, look, Saka's an uber professional, and there's a lot of competition in his particular position with Foden and Palmer, Madueke. So I don't think he's just throwing away minutes to play for England cheaply. However, I do believe that him and other Arsenal players are under strict instruction, and I don't know this. I just like to believe that they're under strict instruction to come off and come home if they feel anything that isn't right. Saka might have just felt a slight hamstring problem against who was it? Greece. It was against Greece for England.
Yeah.
And decided it wasn't worth risking it. He's come home. He's been with the Arsenal staff, I think, all week. My opinion is that he'll be fine, but I don't know why I think that. He's so resilient. He's had minor issues over the last year and a half, but kind of always largely been available. What do you think? Do you think this is something to worry about, or do you think it's just being careful?
I think he's being careful. I'm not going to say it's dark arts like some are saying it is, because I just genuinely believe Mikel Arteta has probably just spoken to them and said, anything you feel, get yourself off. That's not playing dark arts. That's just being sensible about a fixture list that's coming up, which we're going to chat on. That's quite, compiled. I will say, though, that I think Bukayo Saka, he is one of those guys that if he is 70% fit, Mikel Arteta knows how important he is. And I just think he'll play him. And that's where I kind of disagree with Mikel Arteta a lot. Because as much as I do believe he's one of the most important, and I can understand why he wants him to play, he can't keep playing him in every single game. Like, he has to rest him. Like, I know when I see him lining up against Bolton, I'm cringing, I'm wincing, I'm thinking, what's going on here? Like, this. Have we literally got nobody else to replace him with? And, my kind of next question to you, I suppose, and to answer it and to ask you another question on top of that is to sort of say, who then, if no Saka? Because that's a big question mark for me. Is it Jesus wide? Is it Sterling wide? Does he go with Ethan Nwaneri? Does he go a different system, James? I don't know. What are you saying?
Yeah, I actually think Arteta's management of Saka's minutes has been a lot better this season. And look, I say a lot better. What do I know? He'll have experts around him who will be telling him how much Saka should or shouldn't be playing. But it's felt from a distance that I've just been a lot happier. He came off in the North London derby because he felt a little something fine. He came off against Atalanta. He was the one who came off for half time, so he went to a back five. That's why when he started the Bolton game, in any other circumstances, I'd be thinking, what are you doing? But I got it. He'd been subbed off a lot, and I was actually okay with it. Plus, I got us seeing Nwaneri with Saka a little bit. He played now and then came off. Now, I also think we are better placed to deal with the Saka injury, or if Saka needs to take some time off or rotate and rest. I think we're in a much better position this season than we have been in previous campaigns. Now, I'm not saying that we've got all the perfect answers by any means, but I think last season we signed Kai Havertz to be a left 8, and what was it, 16th of October now. So 12 months ago, a year ago, we were still in the experiment of Havertz in the left 8. Maybe moving up front sometimes, but largely playing in central midfield. Fair to say it didn't work. But now what we've got, because Havertz are starting now and doing really well, Jesus has become a squad player across the front three, and we've added Sterling. So if Saka's missing, I don't feel like we're either moving Martinelli there or we're moving Jesus out of position without having a striker we're happy with. Marte keeps his place, Havertz keeps his place, and then Jesus and Sterling, you're looking at and going, like, I know Jesus is in terrible form. I know Sterling has a lot to prove because it hasn't happened for him at Chelsea, but you'd struggle to get much better depth. Am I being
No.
naive? Am I being too kind?
That's what they're there for. They're
Yeah.
looking at opportunities for themselves. Saka gets a knock, and we look at Sterling or Jesus, and you decide which one. I mean, for me, I would argue that Raheem Sterling was brought in to do that job, right?
I agree.
You know, Reece Nelson is the guy that was sold. He was supposed to be the Saka cover that Arteta clearly didn't trust. Sometimes played Vieira out there. At the moment, I think it has to be Sterling. I mean, Judges was saying he would play Jesus out there because he thinks he's a better wide man. I actually agree that he is a better wide man than number 9, but I think Sterling's the guy that you brought in for if this was to be an occurrence that happens. So surely he's the guy. And I would argue as well, James, I don't know about you, but I actually think Sterling has looked a lot more lively and looked to make things happen more than Gabriel Jesus in the last few games, who I think has been really disappointing, bro.
Yeah, I think Jesus, and like I say it with love because I genuinely really like the player. I won't forget that 4-month stint he gave us before his injury where he looked unbelievable. I mean, I think outside of Aubameyang's goals, that might be the best 4 months of performance we've seen from a number 9 at Arsenal since Van Persie. Is that a fair statement? Maybe he was that good. The goals weren't really there.
It was looking good, man. I mean, you know, I said to Tom Canton that I felt he was been a bit of a flop as an Arsenal signing, and he thought that was harsh. I look back to that and I'm with you. I thought he was phenomenal, but I kind of think for 50 million, I wanted more than 4 months.
It's a fair request.
Do you know what I mean? I can't get too excited by it. I mean, I look at Lacazette and he was the same amount. Do you know what I'm saying? Lacazette was 50 million.
Yeah, you're right. And Lacazette did have seasons where the goals were kind of there. I mean, I think Lacazette's kind of almost, people reflect on Lacazette as a bit of a joke, but for the first 2 seasons, I loved what we got from Lacazette.
Player of the year under Emery, man. Player of the year.
Yeah, he did some good things. Now, look, ultimately, neither have got to the level that we want for the money that was spent or whatever, and the number 9 on the back. Now, with Jesus, part of me makes excuses for the knee injury, or makes excuses with the knee injury. However, Calafiori had a big knee injury 3-4 years ago. Jurriën Timber only last year had a massive knee injury. And there's another one in the Arsenal squad. And Martinelli, people forget in 2020, in that pandemic period of football, he had a big knee injury. And they've come back to a level where we're not talking about it. So as much as I feel for Jesus and he's not looked the same before it, and I'm sure there's differences and I don't understand the medical science behind it all, there's also a point at which, look, okay, you might not be quite the same player, but what we're seeing at the moment from Jesus is nowhere near the level. Nowhere near the level. He's miles off it, Gabby Jesus, at the moment. I was at the Southampton game at the Emirates. I was so disappointed with him. Sterling, on the other hand, I'm seeing just a bit more, and it's still not quite enough, and I think he'll grow into it, but he's not had as many opportunities so far this season. And I think Sterling will get there. What I do like about Sterling, and again, it's a small sample size, he doesn't look like he's lost his pace. That looks like it's still there. And that will be a tool because I think you need pace in your front line. So I go for Sterling on the right. Sorry for waffling on massively there, but
no, it was relevant, man. It was relevant, and yeah. I'm with you. I would play Sterling there if Saka isn't about, but I wouldn't surprise me if Saka's lining up at the weekend, bro. It really wouldn't. Like,
I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, honestly, it is a madness. I do have a worry though, James. Let me tell you what my worry is.
Let's go into it
because this isn't actually my worry, but it's off the back of this. if Martinelli is actually injured, which I'm hoping he isn't, but it's looking like he could be, maybe not long term, but he might not make this game. If we're missing Saka and Martinelli, then we might have to see both Sterling and Jesus come in, right? My problem and my worry is how we set up with Sterling and
Man
Jesus.
City 2021, isn't it?
Well, look, I kind of, I've got to say, I look at Sterling and Jesus playing, and I don't think it's going to be in the system that we would play it. I don't know if I've made myself clear there.
Go
What I'm
on.
getting at is I kind of feel like Havertz is going to drop into the bloody midfield again. And I kind of feel like he'll go with Jesus up top, Trossard left, Sterling right, Havertz in the Erdegaard role. And that worries me.
Oh, that would hurt.
That worries me a lot because I kind of feel like he seems to be obsessed still with dropping Havertz. And I don't know why. Like, he's got to play in the 9. You know, Hooks is right in the chat. He's been up there with, you know, since Van Persie has left Arsenal. Havertz has been putting in those kind of numbers from the 9. When you look at it from the back end of January, when he's been in the 9, he's been scoring 1 every 2 games.
Yeah,
So he has to play in the 9. When we're dropping him there, it doesn't work. It didn't work against Southampton last season, against Villa and Bayern Munich. We dropped him and we went out of both those competitions in terms of losing the league title at that game and going out the Champions League. I just don't know why this guy does it. And you saw against Southampton, it was like, what is this? And then the minute in the second half, he goes to the 9, we win the game convincingly. And it's like, why can't we see this? Like, for me, it's so clear and obvious that he is a 9. And I just worry that if Martinelli and Saka are out, then we're going to have to play Sterling and Jesus, but they're not just going to go on the right and left like we expect. I think Jesus will go up top, Havertz will drop deeper, and then Sterling will go one wing and Trossard will go the other.
Yeah, I did a video in the summer, and actually a lot of people in the comments of my video weren't very happy with me, but the premise of the video was, I love that we're versatile. I love that we have players that can play many positions, but should there not be a core set of players that basically don't move? And what I mean by that is, like, Rodri, he's not sometimes in the 8, sometimes in the 6. Fabinho was never sometimes in the 8, sometimes in the 6. Now, did they sometimes move forward? Sure, but that's just their quality as footballers. But they had a defined role. Does Rice benefit from sometimes being a left 8 who has to hug the touchline, sometimes has to go into the front 5, sometimes has to drop in and build up? Does he benefit from sometimes being shoved out there, but then sometimes asked to be the number 6 to win the ball back? Sometimes it's sweep up in front of the back four. Sometimes it's press up the pitch. Now, he's good enough to do it all, but we're looking at Rice to be our midfield general, like one of our key players. And I think that's true of Kai Havertz as well. Does he benefit from, can he play right 8? Can he play left 8? Can he play up front? Can he play shadow striker? If we want him to be the goal scorer that I actually think his 20 for 24 numbers are proving he can be, let him be a striker. The minute, I will say, the goal he scored against Southampton, he was playing in the right 8, but it was everything a striker does. He was the highest player up the pitch. Saka gave it to him. He let it roll across his body, set himself, and smashed it into that, in off the post. It was one of the first times, not one of the first times, but Havertz has always come across as maybe a touch shy and let me do my bit for the team. But what I loved is him going, I'm the guy, I'm dragging us back into this. And I loved it. And I don't want to keep moving him around. And, I've waffled on so long now, I can't remember what your question was. But my point is, right, because you're talking about the moving of the system.
Yeah, Havertz.
I would just be disappointed if Arteta went, well, but I'd rather Jesus up front and Havertz can do a job in midfield, and leave him up front and then build around that. Saka's injured or Erdegaard's injured. Don't move someone else out of their position. Then you've got 3-4 players who aren't in their right position. Just keep Havertz where he needs to be. Make a decision what Rice is meant to be. And then if it's Sterling or Erdegaard's missing, just go for your best player to slot in from the bench. That's my opinion. I would be so disappointed if he keeps playing Havertz in midfield personally.
So will I. And he is very stubborn, Mikel Arteta.
He is.
I do think, though, whenever he's been stubborn, he's kind of come off smug and smirking because it's worked. He's got to sometimes realise that it ain't always going to. Because, and what I mean by that is, of course, signing of Havertz, playing Raya over Ramsdale, looking at turning Ben White into a right back, those kind of things that people are like, huh? The hell's he doing? And they've all come good. Signings as well, to be fair. I just don't get it with this one. And he seems to be adamant on still having that kind of obsession with just going, well, we have got Havertz who can drop deep, and he can't drop deep. Wait, okay, let me be fair. He can drop deep, but it's fairly ineffective. And, it takes away so much more from our strike force. It takes away that focal point. It takes away that link-up play. It also takes away the kind of target man and the man mountain that we all know and need. And that, for me, is something that we just can't replace at the moment. If we had, I think, Gyökeres, then maybe we could do a little bit more of it. And he might go, do you know what, Havertz, we're dropping deep. Maybe he can grow a bit better with next to somebody like a Gyökeres, but we need Havertz still up top most of the time. But literally, you can't do it. Jesus can't do what Havertz is doing.
Do you think, and I'm now venturing into very boring territory here, but
No, go on.
do you think there are maybe some things outside of kind of what we see players do on the ball that Arteta's considering that maybe we don't? And what I mean by that is we might look at Havertz and Jesus with Havertz in the right eight, Jesus up top, and we're thinking, I don't love that because Jesus is in great form, because Havertz isn't an Erdegaard type and all that, right? But maybe he's looking at it going, but Havertz understands what I need out of possession in that role better than anyone else. And his positioning and how to support Saka, he does better than anyone else. And his ability to both drop into a midfield three and press as a front two, he does better than anyone else. Jesus, whatever he's doing on the ball, that's frustrating. Off the ball, he leads the press brilliantly. He's setting traps for the opposition teams. Now, I'm not sure I'm seeing that. And maybe my understanding of the coaching and the tactical game at that level is not good enough to understand that. But maybe there's just something else. And we're all like clamoring for Nwaneri to play. But Arteta's like, yes, on the ball, he's ready. But off the ball, he still has this, and this to learn. And I just wonder whether that's a side that maybe we're not considering. And I'm not saying that is what it is. I'm just wondering.
No, I think you are bang on if you're looking through the eyes of Mikel Arteta.
Yeah.
I would say through the eyes of the fan base, what it's looking more like is that we either need one of two things, a number 10 or a number 9. Because Havertz is needed up top, and that means we might need a number 10 if Havertz has to keep dropping there, or if Havertz is the guy to drop there, we definitely need a number 9. So for me, I think there's clearly some more work to be done there. And I'm not saying that Mikel Arteta doesn't think there is more work to be done. I think we all know that we need more players and we need to keep improving every year, right? So I think that might be the next progression route for us, is to look at this focal point up top. Is it Havertz? Is it Havertz and somebody? Or does Havertz drop and stay up top, and we actually look at the number 10 or number 8 position more? And that, I think, is going to be a serious question for January and the summer. But it's really interesting that you mentioned that there's so much that we can do. But actually, there's a lot more we can do in our midfield now, James, which I wanted to move to.
So much more, yeah.
Because I look at Partey, Jorginho and Rice, and I said this earlier, I actually feel like if you look around the top 6 clubs, they'll be quite jealous of those 3 players that are all playing the 6. Because when you look at Liverpool, I think, by the way, Gravenberch has been phenomenal for them. He really has.
Yeah,
after him, wouldn't they love Partey or Jorginho? Or wouldn't they be preferring to start him and having them? I look at Spurs, I look at Chelsea, I look at Newcastle. Maybe not Chelsea, actually. They've got Lavia and Caicedo. But I look at Newcastle, Manchester United, 100%. And I look at them and I think, yeah, you would absolutely kill to have our 3 6s. You would.
Or just one of them.
Or just one of them, precisely, and any of them as well. So, look, I think Thomas Partey's been our best midfielder this season. I really do. I think against Manchester City, when we went down to 10, he was fantastic. PSG, thought he was phenomenal, actually, against PSG. And he's been fairly consistent. And I don't want to jinx this, so I'll touch my desk, which is lucky wood, because I do not want him to get injured. But I'm amazed that he's actually played every single minute of most of the games so far this season. I had him down to about 15, 20 games this season, James, because realistically, stats prove he's not gonna stay fit. Where does Merino fit to you in all of this? Because you're the tactic.
Hey, great problems. And I'm going to talk about these set of problems with a big smile on my face, because it's everything we wanted. Genuine depth. I remember last season, the season before. No, not the season before because of Granit Xhaka, but last season for sure. Losing Xhaka, we didn't know what was the best blend. Is it Rice to the 6 with either Vieira or Smith Rowe? Okay, well, it's none of them. We're going to move Rice to the 8. Well, then is it Partey? Is it Jorginho? And now we've got a situation in which this was an unpopular opinion when the transfer window ended, but I always said if Nwaneri has the talent that Arteta seems to think he does, then we've actually gone into this season, in my opinion, with better midfield options. Erdegaard, Nwaneri, Trossard can drop in, Havertz can drop in, Partey, Jorginho, Merino, Rice. I mean, we're blessed in that position. Maybe not quite as blessed as Man City, who just have a a freak set of midfield options, but we're blessed in that position. In fact, they don't have the sixth depth. I mean, they've got Rodri, who's the best six in the world. But then if you're lining up all our sixes and all their sixes, I think second, third, and fourth spot are taken up by the players we have. So we've got tremendous depth in that area. Merino comes into it in terms of, I think he puts immense pressure on both Partey and Rice.
Yeah.
And the reason I throw Rice in there, and I was mentioning this on Forever Arsenal, and I mentioned it live on the AFTV, and people are going to start thinking, do you know what? I'm going to do a video on this on the Gooners, and people are going to start thinking that I've got some Rice agenda. I love Rice. He was my player of the season last year. I think he's been worth every penny of the 105 million we spent on him. But is there a world in which you're looking at your best six to play out of a press? Partey at his best, in my opinion, does that better than Rice at his best. Rice does a million other things fantastically. And probably better. And then you've got Merino, who's a more natural 8 than Declan Rice in terms of having played that position all his career. And Rice might develop and get better, but then there's things. I just wonder if there's a world in which Shakhtar at home, Rice can sit this one out. You can have a rest. Because why not? Why not?
I never thought he would, because obviously he's our best midfielder, but you're right. There's an option now to do that. Whereas last season, it was just like, we can't drop this guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That was last season. I wouldn't dream of a world in which Rice didn't start any Premier League game or any Champions League game. But we have got a level of depth now that tells me that we can at times go, Declan, you've played a lot of football. Like, you can sit this one out. And yes, if we're playing the Champions League final tomorrow, Declan Rice starts every day of the week. Don't get me wrong, but I'm trying to praise the level of depth in the context of the whole season. Now, Phil Foden hasn't been starting games for Man City. Can you imagine if we had Phil Foden, Player of the Year, last season? Was getting those massive goals from distance, practically, his goals and his moments, a huge reason why City sort of won the title and was so good in that run-in. Can you imagine we had a player that just did that and then we weren't starting him most of this campaign? That wouldn't happen. But City have got to a level where they can have a player perform that well and go, yeah, cool, but I don't need you yet. I don't need you right now. Others are doing the job and they're offering me different things. So I don't think it should ever be crazy, the idea that Rice doesn't start every game. And I think we should be looking at City. If we want to get to the level, we should be looking at them and realizing that that's the level they've got to, where they can just go, yeah, Foden, we don't need you right now. So I'm putting that out there.
Listen, you're bang on. And it's incredible because clearly that's what Mikel Arteta is thinking, because we can't fit all these players in, right? I will say this. I think Declan Rice is a 6, bro.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think he's an 8, and I've not been impressed with him this season. Not just because he's been in the 8, because he played very well there at the back end of last season. Particularly, I think was it after Dubai where we were just smashing teams, and he was he was brilliant. Against, I know it was only against like the Sheffield United of this world, but actually he was phenomenal in that 8.
Yeah,
we can play there, but he's a 6, man, and I think Merino is an 8, not the other way around. So
Agreed.
I think when everybody's fit in Mikel Arteta's eyes, he probably thinks our best trio is of course Ødegaard, Merino, and Rice. But with Partey there, who can actually come in now and start, Rice can either play the 8 or he can sit this one out and go, do you know what? I'll go to the next one, or I'll come on. And we need that as well, because Declan Rice, let's be real, as we've seen, he doesn't get looked after for his country either. He plays every minute of every game for England. So there might be a world in which we do need to rotate Rice a lot. And that's kind of a nice segue onto our next fixtures, mate, because they aren't pretty. And funny enough, then we've got another international break after that.
And I heard Tuchel's not starting till January, so we can't even be excited about the November one. Honestly,
why is
he not starting in November?
Why can't they just start now? I don't get that. Like, what's he there for? Just decoration for a few months. It's like, look at what you can have in a few months. Do you know what I mean? It's
extraordinary.
Like crazy, bro. But look, I don't look forward to the international break. But you know what? We might actually need it after our exhausted we might be as a fan base in the next coming weeks. Because don't get me wrong, this is what we live for, but it isn't easy. Like going into every game with the pressure, particularly when you start playing games at 5:30 and you're looking at other results. Like, oh my God, with 5:30, what's Man City doing? What's Liverpool doing? It's going to be a mad one. And obviously this weekend we're quite good because City and Liverpool both play on the weekend, I think, on the Sunday, if I'm right in saying that. Or the Man City Wolves play on
Yes, no,
the
you're both right. Sorry,
yeah.
you're right about both. They're both on Sunday, 2 p.m. and 4:30. So
Yeah, so
if
we
we
do
get
our
our
job,
win,
we
we
can
can put our
relax
feet
and
up.
just
Yeah,
that's what we need, man. We need to beat Bournemouth and then relax.
yeah,
So let me not before we go into this Bournemouth game to close. I mean, it's a madness, the fixtures, bro. They really are. We've got Bournemouth and Shakhtar the next. We've got Liverpool, which is a massive game at home. Preston away in the Carabao Cup, we want to progress past. We then have unbelievable fixtures, which are crazy that it's happened again because we only just had Atalanta away in the middle of Man City away and Spurs away. Now it seems, and Villa we had away as well. Now it seems that
yeah,
we've got Newcastle away, Inter Milan away, and Chelsea away before the international break.
yeah.
My question to you is we clearly can't play our best 11 in every single game. We've got to do some form of rotation and we've got to look at our squad depth. But how do we go about this? Because I kind of titled it as too much can be a risk. I personally felt like the wholesale changes that were made against Southampton, it didn't quite click. It wasn't something that worked. I'm not saying we should never do it again, but I'm asking the question, is there a way around that? Is there actually you start your best team and you bring your 4 or 5 best players off? Or you only make 1 or 2 changes, and then if you do feel like perhaps things are going a little bit well, then you bring another 2 or 3 of them on. How does it work for you, man? What do you think will happen?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, did it work? I mean, you said it didn't work. I think I said on my my sort of match reaction, I think I also said those words. It didn't work, but what do I mean? I mean, and I think you mean if you tell me if I'm speaking correctly for you. We brought players in and they weren't able to maintain the level we expected from Arsenal. But what if the plan and what if when we say it didn't work, Arteta's going, well, no, it did work. I got minutes into the legs of players that clearly needed it, and we still came out with a win. Like, that's another way of looking at it. He probably knew there's going to be a dip in performance. I haven't got my starting 9. I'm putting him into midfield. I'm rotating left wing to try to get Sterling some minutes. I've got my 4th choice right back starting. He might well have known that Jorginho is probably the 3rd choice, number 6. He probably kind of thought to himself, I know this isn't going to be vintage Arsenal, but if I can get minutes into these players and I come out with a fairly comfortable win, life's good. So from that perspective, there's every chance that Arteta kind of knew this is not going to be as pretty as we want it to be, but it's a necessary evil because I really need these guys playing football and keeping warm and getting some competitive football in them before before I actually need them. Like if Saka now is unavailable, Sterling started the last Premier League game, and that's good. Jesus started the last Premier League game. So what I would do for this, I think you go full strength for Bournemouth. What that looks like, you can have it out amongst yourselves. But I think basically it's if Saka's fit, you play him. Havertz up front, please. And whatever the rest of the team is, probably Trossard, Son, and 10. I think at Shakhtar, at home to Shakhtar, there's some room for trying some different things. Merino, if he's not starting on the weekend, which I don't think he will, I think he should start against Shakhtar. I think
Facts.
he should. Good level. Champions League, at home, with either Rice, Jorginho, or Partey. Take your pick. Either one of them. But I think
Yeah.
he should play. Nwaneri, maybe. Can you get some minutes into Tomiyasu if the rumors are false that he's injured again? If he's fit, can you get some minutes into him? Can you get some minutes into Ben White, who's going to need it after not playing since City? But I think it's about managing. For me, whether it's 2 players in and out or 4 players in and out, however Arteta does it, just get the profiles right. Just keep Havertz up front. And if you're going to rest him, rest him. Don't just shove him into midfield. Take him out the team. If you're looking for a 10, go for Trossard or Nwaneri. If don't persist with this Partey thing at right back. If one of Timber or Tomiyasu are actually good to go, get them back in a right back. That's what I think. I want to see the profiles right because I think when we mess around with that, you can see the team looks a bit disjointed.
Look, I really feel like it's important for us to rotate. My
Yeah.
my problem is I kind of feel like I'm being hypocritical sometimes, but it's like, yeah, you got to rotate, and then it's like, what you're rotating for? So it's like really hard
I
to get
get
the
you.
balance right, which is why I've asked you the question because I do think there's 2 ways of doing it. You either start strong and you take off once you believe the game's won, or you
Yeah.
start to make a couple of changes and think, "Do you know what? Actually, we haven't really weakened our defense there or our midfield there. Let's go with it." And I feel like we're getting more and more towards that, but I think we're strong from this side of the field and we start to go up and it gets a bit weaker. And I feel like now the Sterling and Jesus conversation comes back into play, that those two really have actually got to pick themselves up and say, right, we want to be a part of the squad. It's time for us to deliver. You've bought us for this reason, and this is what we're going to be doing. So that's where I'm kind of at. I wanted to kind of close, James, with the defence, because they mentioned in the chat about Tomiyasu, which I want to get your thoughts on. But in general, the fullback situation, I mean, what is it? If you play at fullback for Arsenal, you can't seem to get a run of games, it seems. I mean, like Zinchenko's injured. Tierney, we know about. Tomiyasu, there's rumours again now. Timber, ACL, now he's back. Calafiori had a couple of knocks before he got a run of games. It seems that Gabriel, Saliba and Kivior were okay, touch when we know Gabriel and Saliba is a phenomenal partnership. So my kind of question, I suppose, first is Tomiyasu, before I go into the others. Look, just quickly, I think Tierney will probably end up back at Celtic in January. It doesn't look like he's a part of the future at the club. Zinchenko, answers on a postcard, please, for when he's back, because no one knows. It just goes quiet, and he's just injured still. Tomiyasu, though, bruv. I mean, look, if he's not injured, great. I mean, Hooks is saying he's seen him in the in the training videos, and it looks okay. So touch wood, hopefully, fingers crossed that he is. But I did some kind of stats, and I read out last night and just on Lee's channel that Kieran Tierney, who is injury prone, for sure he is, has missed 284 days of football, which is quite a lot when you think of it. Tomiyasu has missed 336. So
I shouldn't laugh, but that is
it's criminal. And I look at it and I think I wouldn't mind so much if he was like a starter. He's played a lot of games. We've overplayed the guy. He's playing right back, left back, centre back every game. It's like, wow, this guy's just an absolute warrior. He's brilliant aerially. He's superb one-on-one defending. I actually really like him. He is versatile. But your best ability is availability, bro. And he's not even available to be a backup player. So when you play 6 minutes against Southampton and you potentially get a knock that keeps you out for a month, you have to question the future of him, bro.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you said everything about the things you do like about him, because I do think it's worth saying, the reason we're disappointed he's not available is because I think he might be our best fullback in the air available in the squad. With all the players we've got, I think he's still the best. I think he's pretty two-footed. I'm not sure I can say, all the other players, Calafiori looks very comfortable on his right foot. We know White and Timber are very technical players, but two-footed nature is good. He's a big, strong player. I think he's got that recovery pace. Like if a winger's got past him, you're not 100% sure he's still got past him. You back Tomiyasu to kind of get back and deal with it, and not kind of get skinned on a regular basis. I mean, if we're playing away at the Burnabout and we have a fully fit, completely like everyone's available, who do you start? There's a conversation about Tomiyasu starting over a Timber or a Calafiori or a White. There is. He's that good defensively, in my opinion. So all those things are reasons why we love him, but he can't stay fit. Now, we're talking about this off the back of one report, which I think came from Team Talk. Could be wrong. And, if he's been seen in training and he's fit, great. I'll be delighted because I love the guy. He still missed the first 3 months of this season. He missed all of pre-season. The season started mid-August. There you go. Thumbs up. Hit the like button, everyone. Subscribe to Football's 12th Man. But also, he missed the season started in August. He missed all pre-season, and he came back just before the international break. We're now mid-October, so that's just shy of 3 months he's missed. Like, that's another long injury he's had. I made the case on AFTV that you're so stacked in that position. He's not on a crazy salary. Does it really matter if he's only available for 20 games a season? He's a good player. Do you just use him when you can? But the reality is that's never going to work. It's just never going to work long term. You maybe put up with it for a couple of years, but it's just not a long-term solution. So I really like him. I hope he stays fit. I hope he is fit at the moment. We're going to need him for these upcoming games. But if he can't prove his fitness this season, then next summer, unfortunately, he's one of the players that's available for transfer.
You're right. You're bang on. And I think he will be if his injuries continue.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the fullbacks that we do have and your preference at the moment, because there's a lot of people that are suggesting that it's set in stone at the moment and it's Timber and Calafiori. I genuinely believe Arteta does feel that way. I don't know what that means for Ben White. I think Ben White, listen, he's got an unbelievable future at Arsenal still, in my opinion. I would not start that. My back four would be Ben White at right back and Timber at left back, because we conceded less goals that way. Since Calafiori's come into the mix, and I'm by no means saying I don't rate him or it is his fault, I think that we've conceded goals at home against teams that I did not expect to, Leicester and Southampton. Now, I'm not saying that every goal was down that left-hand side. I wouldn't question Calafiori defensively, if I'm honest with you. I wouldn't question him offensively. I would question him positionally, is my problem with Calafiori. I started off being a little bit hypocritical and going, oh, he's great going forward. But then I can't sit there and go, I don't want Zinchenko because he only goes forward and doesn't defend. Actually, defensively, he's pretty good. Offensively, he's pretty good on the ball. And I like the fact that he can get back and intercept. But I sometimes look at him and I think, where you going, bro? Stop getting so excitable. Like, just calm down a bit. You know, you're young. I get it. You're keen. But Timber doesn't do that on the left-hand side. Like, he was one of our best players against Spurs. I thought he was phenomenal when he's come in and slotted there, when he started there in the Community Shield game before his injury. Ben White I think we've kept more clean sheets with Ben White in the side. Down that left, he kept Son quiet. He kept Lookman quiet. There's a kind of shout to say that he kept Man City fairly quiet when he came on as well. I just think he's the better guy. So I personally prefer Ben White at right back. Although I do like Timber at right back, I think we'd have to keep Ben White there so that he can play the left back scenario. But what do you think, bro?
Well, Dan, before we kind of explore it, can we just take a minute to just appreciate? Now, I'm saying this as an Arsenal fan.
Yeah,
I didn't watch the great sides you watched, but I've had to put up with some dross at fullback. Honest, I've had to just, should it be Andre Santos or Kieran Gibbs this weekend? I don't know. I actually quite like Kieran Gibbs, but I've had to.
Ilachi or Stepanovs, which you want? Yeah.
I just
exactly.
had to put up. So the fact that we're sitting here arguing about whether White sort of deserves his place in the team, having been phenomenal for the last 3 seasons, in my opinion,
it's refreshing, right? It's refreshing.
So refreshing for me, for where I am as an Arsenal fan. I'm like, thank you, Mikel, Edu, whoever, for bringing together this collection of defenders that I have a pride in talking about. Now, I think it's going to be a bit horses for courses. If we're playing Liverpool, which we are in a week and a bit, I like the idea of Timber at left back against Salah.
Yep.
That's a really good matchup. The right footer against his left foot cutting in. I think that works nicely. We've kind of deployed that tactic with Tomiyasu in the past and it's worked. Calafiori, I agree with you. I really like that you said you don't question him going forward or defensively, but it's more positionally. It's a good way of putting it because he can tackle. My word, he can tackle. He can read a tackle and an interception. He can he's got that kind of Declan Rice ability to wrap his leg around and win the ball. Like, you think he's not going to win the ball here and he somehow comes out with it. He's kind of very good at that. But when he's been done is when he's been too tight to the winger and the winger's done him, or when he's been slightly out of position. You could argue for the Leicester goal, things like that. So yeah, Calafiori hasn't completely impressed me defensively. I think there's some questions there, but he's 22 and I think he'll get better. And also think he was a left midfielder, then a centre back, then he's been all over the place. So I think it'll be horses for courses against teams where we're going to need someone who's brave enough to drive with the ball into tight spaces and take players out the game. I think you've got to have Calafiori in there. Dare I say that you've got to have Timber as well. But I think when we're facing Liverpool, we just need a really cool head. We need someone who just knows what it's about. Ben White, I think, will always be on that team sheet for me. If we're playing a Champions League final, that's always for me a good measure. Champions League final tomorrow, who are you starting? It's Ben White's in that team for me. He's earned that over the years, and I just think there's still just a level-headedness about him that you never think he's going to make a big mistake, do you? You never think, and even if he's done by the fullback, I've never seen him tormented by a winger. I've never seen him tormented by a winger for 90 minutes, relentlessly. He might have had a tough time, he might have struggled, but absolutely tormented. I think he's been absolutely torn apart. Unless I'm forgetting anything, I can't really remember a moment like that. But what about, where are you? What do you think? I mean, who are your starting fullbacks today if we're playing a Champions League final tomorrow? I mean, mine are White and Timber at left back.
Facts. I'm going White and Timber. I think defensively we look better. I think we've kept more clean sheets, and we've kept more clean sheets against harder sides, by the way. We went to Villa and we kept a clean sheet. We went to Spurs, we kept a clean sheet. And when we've played at home, I think to be fair, look, we're more expressive at home, so it's hard to say that we don't keep clean sheets. But we did
Yeah,
keep a
you're right.
clean sheet, against Wolves on the first game of the season. Okay, Raya made a blinding save, by the way, so that could have got in. But we just looked a little bit more harder to break down.
And
Against
PSG.
Leicester, yeah, and PSG. Calafiori coming in, I like it. I like him on the ball, and I think he was really good in parts. It's just not coincidental to me that like sometimes I'm questioning his positioning and we're conceding goals against Southampton and Leicester. So
Yeah.
that's why I think that we might have to look at it a little bit more sensibly. And it's not to say that Calafiori can't burst into this first team because he absolutely can. But there's parts of his game perhaps he needs to get more adjusted to or adapted to before I'm dropping Timber or White out of
Yeah.
it. The only downside, I suppose, and I can understand why people are saying it potentially in the chat and why people might look at it, is Martinelli's game has definitely improved since Calafiori started at left back.
Yeah.
Like it has.
Totally agree.
Like there's definitely the facts are there. And it'll be interesting to me if he does drop out of this side, what happens to Martinelli, because I'm really hoping Martinelli keeps doing this because at the moment it's looking good. But perhaps there is something about the play of Calafiori which allows him to be a little bit more expressive. But I'm interested to see what Martinelli can do once we get Calafiori and Merino actually, or whoever it be at left back, and Merino settled in there. Because I do believe that left hand side, if we allow that to be settling in period, this feels like home to me. I think we will see Martinelli that flourishes. I really do, James.
Yeah. Is it a coincidence that it's worked out a bit better with Calafiori there? I mean, Arteta's spoken about liking left backs, left-footed left backs and right-footed right backs, and sort of the benefits of that. I think in having that, you've got a player in Calafiori who can drive down the middle on the inside of Martinelli, got some that can go around the outside. That means that Martinelli's positioning is a little bit more unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, you're a better player. It's as simple as that. If the opposition know what you're going to do the whole time, you're not as good as when they don't quite know where you're going to pop up and what you're going to do. And look, he's been getting into some dangerous areas at the back post for Saka's cross to get us that second goal against Southampton. But his goal against Leicester was getting in the box and being there for a cutback and a low cross. So there's an unpredictability that's a bit better since Calafiori's come in, which I like. But if we're talking purely about the back four, it's horses for courses for me. It really is. I think if we're playing at home and I want Arsenal to be expressive, I want Calafiori on that pitch. And maybe you're done with him, but I'm not done with Zinchenko for those particular games. If we're playing Everton at home and it's a Sean Dyche difficult low block to break, I really liked Zinchenko in pre-season. I thought he was really good. And I still think, as much as Calafiori's impressed, I think Zinchenko's still the better through-the-lines passer and playmaker. He might not be the same dribbler and sort of marauding fullback that Calafiori's shown he can be, but I still think Zinchenko has all that. So we've got lots of our defense is a Swiss Army knife. We have all these different options to pick lots of different locks and solve different problems. But I always go with this Champions League final thing. What that does, it's the litmus test for how much do you trust a player to do everything as much as possible. And I still think it's Timber and White for me, just.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. I think it is White and Timber at the moment. But it really wouldn't surprise me if he sticks with Calafiori and Timber because they seem to be his favourites at the moment. Gabriel and Saliba with Raya, of course. It wouldn't surprise me if we line up at the weekend with Havertz in midfield. I've said that before with Rice and Partey. And then obviously with Sterling, Jesus and Trossard as the front three. That would be nothing surprising to me. So we'll see what happens. Look, before we close, let's get a quick prediction for you from the weekend, my bro. I know you don't like doing predictions. And please, if you don't want to do one and you're shaving it for your channel, then please do. But I'm happy to give mine. How you see this one going, bro?
I went for a 2-1 Arsenal win. I think this might be one of those ugly, we're just back from the international break. We look a bit rusty. We're not quite clicking, but we maybe just find a way to get the win. That's all I'm expecting.
I've gone 3-1. Funny that we both think we're going to concede, but I kind of do. Away from home, we're good, but I do think
right. That's true.
They've got Semenyo, they've got Evan Nilsson, who's just starting to come into form, and they've got some players I actually do rate. I think Kirkes is a fantastic left back for them as well, by the way,
and a good manager.
Do you know what he is? He looks like he can really do it. And do you know what? Fair play to them for sticking with him because last season, this time it was like, are they going down with him? Like,
Yeah.
it was looking like Gary O'Neill should have stayed. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at what Iriola is doing and how he's actually implementing his style of play, it's pretty impressive. Third
Yeah.
kit on Saturday, Mohammed is saying. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. So we
Yeah,
get to
that makes
finally see
sense.
it. We finally get to see that. So
I'll wear it once and
we
charge us
will.
120 quid for it.
It's so true. It is so true. But look, I'm very old school with kits, man. I'm very old school. I like it to be red, white, yellow, blue, and then black and gold for the third kit because I loved that away kit that season.
That was
That was
great.
by far the
I'm with
nicest.
you though. So I mean, you've got the bruised banana behind you there, which
Yeah.
is like the iconic. But I think every year there needs to be a form of. I'll put up with one of two things. There needs to be either a yellow, a navy blue, or a white kit as one of the three. There has to be, because
Yeah.
those are our colors. Some people might say, "What, white Tottenham?" But when we had like the
Yeah,
white
well,
with
red and white.
maroon, it looked
Exactly.
great. It looks
It did.
really good. That is, we do have white on our sleeves, so we're not, and white on our shorts, so we're not completely away from the white thing. But I agree. Yellow. We haven't had a yellow kit for ages. I think you got to give us one of the, and then maybe the third kit you can do what you want and go crazy. But
Exactly.
you've got to be giving us our club colours for our home and away, in my opinion, in some way, shape, or form. Anything that's on the crest.
For me, when I see nothing against light blue and turquoise and like pink and all this stuff, but nah, it ain't for me. Like it's got to be black, it's got to be white and red and white, and it's got to be yellow and blue. I'm traditional, I'm old school like that for me. And like 2004, I know we went invincible, so it was iconic, but those kits were so good that year. Like they were so nice, just like the O2, and then you had the one with the collar, the red and blue, the yellow and blue. It was just so good, man. And the other Burkamp one behind me here, the red currant one, just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, I'm a bit of a geek with the kits, man. I love it. Like Bruce
I'm
Bernardo's
with
my
you.
favorite. I love it. So,
I'm
yeah,
with you.
but you've got to go back to that. Now I'm looking at these kits coming out, and I'm like, oh well, just buy the home one again then this year. And it's
Yeah, and
like,
it's also the training kits. Like, and look, they've released some really nice stuff. Don't get me wrong, I've bought some of it, but
same.
also the training. Like at this rate, we train in like. I think last year we were training like a dark green, and this year we're training in like a navy blue with
Navy
bright
blue and
blue.
turquoise type. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, no, it looks great, and I'll probably buy it. I'll be honest, but
yeah.
like, you're not even like, there's not even red in the building when you're training every day. Like, come on, it's our colours. But
Facts,
listen,
bro.
very much like the national anthem stuff. There's only so much I care, and I don't care about the national anthem stuff. But with
Yeah.
the kits, there's only so much. Ultimately, just win football matches. I
Facts,
will
man.
love the kit.
Absolute facts. No, listen, man. Big up to you. Listen, thanks so
Thank
much
you,
for
mate.
coming on, man. I really appreciate it as always. And yeah, make sure that you do me a favor, people. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe as well to this one. We're going up to 30K. And make sure you do exactly the same on the title Gooniverse, which is, of course, James's channel. He's on the road to the big 5-0. So please make sure you show some love to both of us by hitting the subscribe on both this and James's platform as well. What you got coming up, man?
Oh, well, we just dropped the podcast with Sharoy. I actually
Nice.
shouted you out in that because we were meant to have you
Oh,
last week,
nice.
but obviously, some stuff happened with me, so
Of course.
we'll make that happen soon. But it was just a one-to-one international. There's not much to talk about, so we thought let's get down on when there's some proper good stuff to chat.
Yeah, man. Of course. No, more than
But
anytime.
we found some topics. We found some topics. There'll be a video on Friday, and then yeah, just cracking on covering Arsenal news basically.
No, love, man. Love. Thanks
Thanks,
for
man.
coming on, man. And
No,
thank
thank
you
you.
all so much in the chat as well for being here. Got a compliment from Hooks, which I must say, Hooks comes on this channel quite a lot. Says, always wanted to know, James, how the hell are you so good at talking about Arsenal tactics? Help a brother out. So there's a huge compliment for
I
you
don't
there,
know if
man.
I am. That's
No, you are, bro. You are. You're the
well,
best. It's you, Graham, and Clive Palmer for me. If I need anything tactically, you're the three I go to, man. So, so fair play to you.
brilliant.
Listen, stay tuned, people. You're going to be redirected over to Footy Judge Mo, who's actually talking to Arsenal with a panel at the moment. So please make sure you go and head over and show him some love. And James, absolute pleasure having you again, man. Really is.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
Top
it.
man. Be back later, people. Take it easy and see you next time. We're out of here.